Well, I've been informed that it is Candidate Sunday, and by a show of hands, is there anyone that has received the calling to become an officer? That's okay, because a year and a half ago, I didn't think this was happening either. So there's still time for you, okay? And when you get to the EBC, or even actually once you say that, I think I want to be an officer, as soon as you say that, man, a question will come at you like just all the time. And it's, when did you receive the call? And I still cannot find an appropriate answer to this question. But not because God hasn't called me, but because for me there wasn't one defining moment. Instead, God has been weaving his handiwork throughout my life, patiently pulling together threads of faith, family, hurt, healing, and to bring me to this very spot that I am today. To say this last year has been monumental would be a huge understatement. God has been confirming and deepening my understanding, not that he's just called me into ministry, but he's called me into ministry to be a Salvation Army officer. I was incredibly fortunate to grow up in a family that didn't just talk about Jesus, but loved him deeply. I watched my parents and grandparents live out their faith in real and everyday ways. They set an encouraging example of what it looked like to love God and to serve others. But as much as this experience shaped me, I learned that faith is not inherited. I had to discover Jesus for myself. I have a painting that hangs above my couch, and it illustrates the story of a shepherd who leaves the 99 sheep to find the one. And in different ways, I've been that one. I've experienced church hurt and witnessed politics that left me wounded and discouraged. And I found myself inch by inch by inch, and step by step by step, straying further from that flock. Hardly noticing the distance growing until one day I looked up and I was far from home. This wasn't just for a season. For 15 years of my life, I was searching for a community. But deep down, I was looking for a version of faith that didn't cost me anything. Fast forward to about 2 years now, God's voice broke through. I describe it as hard and fast and almost out of nowhere. Because as an angsty teen, I am a product of the Salvation Army. I always told myself and everyone around me I'd never be a Salvation Army officer. He was asked, I'd never become a Salvation Army officer, but without notice, God was making this very clear. He wasn't just asking me to become a Salvation Army officer, he was asking me to follow him fully, to drop my nets and step into something much bigger than myself. I'll be honest, at first, I tried just about everything to not follow this call, but God kept pursuing me. He began to give me visions, pictures in my head of what he could do through me as an officer. I started to see what it might look like to be his hands and feet in this role. And instead of fear, I felt excitement. Instead of dread, I felt anticipation. It's as if he was saying, Sarah, this isn't a burden, it's an adventure. So come on, follow me. That's when I began to understand the Salvation Army as a vessel. It's not perfect, y'all, but powerful when surrendered to him. General Buckingham was quoted while on a panel of young Salvationists. He said, it's better to be in. You can't fix it if you're not in it. You keep pushing, you keep teaching, and you keep trying. This lit a fire in me. I realized I could stay on the outside, pointing out all the flaws and failings of our army, or I could step back in, let God use me, and be a part of a new generation. This calling is more than a title that I have on my shoulders or that you may have on your shoulders. It's about joining Jesus in chasing after the one, just as he chased after me. I'm going to admit there's still a wrestle, even today as I in accepting this call. But since stepping foot on the EBC campus, he's been stirring my heart in ways that I can't explain, aligning things that I never saw coming, weaving together my past hurt and present opportunities into something that carries his fingerprints, not mine. So here I stand, not as someone who dreamed of being at the EBC at 1032 Metropolitan Parkway, but as someone pursued by the shepherd, called out of hurt into healing, and given a vision of hope. I've been anointed for his work, to step boldly into places he leads, to speak his truth with courage, and to live out his love with power. And I just can't wait for that moment that I hear his tender words, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." There's still time for you all.